Hello and welcome to Quiz Class. Today we have 100 questions on the history from 1946 to 1964. Let's begin with question number 1. The United Nations General Assembly held its first meeting in which city on January 10th, 1946? Paris, Geneva, or London? London. What did John Bardeen, Walter Brayton, and William Shockley demonstrate for the first time in 1947? The first practical transistor, the first wireless telephone, or the first video home recording? The first practical transistor. Which classic American film, directed by Frank Capra and starring James Stewart, was released in December 1946? Meet Me in St. Louis, Miracle on 34th Street, or It's a Wonderful Life? It's a Wonderful Life. Which company introduced the 33 1/3 RPM long-playing record in 1948? Capitol Records, Columbia Records, or RCA Records? Columbia Records. Which observatory in California saw the first light from the 200-inch Halley telescope, the world's largest optical telescope at that time in 1948? Griffith, Lick, or Palomar Observatory? Palomar Observatory. What was broken when Jackie Robinson debuted with the Brooklyn Dodgers on April 15, 1947? Sport line, color line, or baseball line? The color line. Which U.S. television network's first nightly news broadcast was hosted by Douglas Edwards in 1948? ABC, CBS, or NBC? CBS. Which government announced their intention to withdraw from Palestine in 1947? American, Italian, or British? British. What was the full name of the first Polaroid instant camera launched in 1947? Polaroid Lens, Polaroid Lux, or Polaroid Land camera? Polaroid Land camera. Question 10. Which region became the 10th province of Canada on March 31st, 1949? Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, or Prince Edward Island? Newfoundland. What was the full title of Salvador Dali's 1947 autobiography? The Surreal Life of Salvador Dali, The Secret Life of Salvador Dali, or The Secluded Life of Salvador Dali? The Secret Life of Salvador Dali. Which animal was the first to be sent into space, launched aboard a US V-2 rocket in February 1947? A scarab beetle, a moth, or a fruit fly? A fruit fly. For what 1947 discovery did Cecil Powell receive the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1950? The subatomic particle, irradiated particle, or pion? Pion. Which atomic bomb was not tested at Bikini Atoll in 1946 as part of Operation Crossroads? Able, Baker, or Charlie? Charlie. What was the full title of Alan Patton's 1948 novel set in South Africa about social and racial injustices in the country? Cry the Beloved Country, Protest the Beloved Country, or Remember the Beloved Country? Cry the Beloved Country. What were the 1948 London Summer Olympics known as? Austerity Games, Unity Games, or Harmony Games? Austerity Games. Which 1949 computer was the first commercially available computer based on the Manchester Mark I prototype? Ferrero Mark I, Ferranti Mark I, or Ferrari Mark I? Ferranti Mark I. Which movement was director Vittorio De Sica's 1948 film The Bicycle Thief part of? Neo-modern, neo-realist, or neoclassicist? Neo-realist. Which part of Vatican City ceased archaeological excavations in 1949? St. Peter's Basilica, the Sistine Chapel, or Necropolis? Necropolis. We are at question 20. Which 45 RPM vinyl record was launched in 1949 as a competitor to the 33 1/3 RPM LP? RCA Vespa, Victor, or Volter? The RCA Victor. Which Ludwig Wittgenstein manuscript was published in 1953? Philosophical Interpretations, Philosophical Investigations, or Philosophical Illuminations? Philosophical Investigations. Which declaration on May 9, 1950 proposed the creation of a European coal and steel community? The Fulman Declaration, the Schuman Declaration, or the Truman Declaration? The Schuman Declaration. Which avant-garde composer created the piece 4 minutes and 33 seconds, consisting of 4 minutes and 33 seconds of silence in 1952? John Cage. Which journalist published the discovery of the double helix structure of DNA in 1953? The British Journal of Social Work, Nature, or American Sociological Review? Nature. What was Albert Einstein's cause of death on April 18, 1955? cardiac arrest, ruptured abdominal aortic aneurysm, or stomach cancer? A ruptured abdominal aortic aneurysm. Which astronomical phenomena was first detected by Harold Ewan and Edward Purcell in 1951? 11 centimeter hydrogen line, 21 centimeter, or 31 centimeter? A 21 centimeter hydrogen line. Which 1951 soundtrack was the first LP record to sell 1 million copies? G.I. Jane, Oklahoma, or South Pacific? South Pacific. What disease was the antibiotic penicillin first used for in 1950? Diphtheria, yellow fever, or tuberculosis? Tuberculosis. Which 1950 novel by C.S. Lewis was the first book in the Chronicles of Narnia series? The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, Prince Caspian, or The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe? The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Question 30. Which country unexpectedly won the 1950 World Cup in Brazil in an event known as the Maracanazo? Argentina, Uruguay, or Brazil? Uruguay. Which CIA operation led to the 1953 overthrow of the Iranian Prime Minister? Hornix, Helix, or Ajax? Ajax. What concept did Karl Popper introduce in The Logic of Scientific Discovery in 1951? Empiricism, falsifiability, or verifiability? Falsifiability. Which Elvis Presley song was his first commercial single recorded in 1954? Hound Dog, Love Me Tender, or That's All Right? That's All Right. Which artist painted the women of Algiers in 1954, later becoming one of the most valuable artworks ever sold? Pablo Picasso, Georges Braque, or Joan Miro? Pablo Picasso. What was the tokamak device designed for in 1954? Nuclear fusion research, permafrost research, or intergalactic research? Nuclear fusion research. What did the first successful open heart surgery in 1952 use? Hyperthermia, hypothermia, or hypertension? Hypothermia. Which photograph, critical in revealing the double helix structure of DNA, was captured by Rosalind Franklin in 1951? Photo 5, Photo 51, or Photo 511? Photo 5-1. Photo 51. Which country completed the Delta Works project in 1952 to protect against flooding? The US, the Netherlands, or India? The Netherlands. Which film, the first to use the widescreen CinemaScope format, was released in 1953? The Queen of Sheba, The Egyptian, or The Robe? The Robe. We are at question 40. Which nuclear-powered cargo passenger ship was ordered in 1954 as part of the United States' Atoms for Peace program? NS Savannah, Nova Scotia, or Georgia? NS Savannah. Which planet's atmosphere was studied through the first radio observations in 1952? Mars, Mercury, or Venus? Venus. Which chapel, designed by Le Corbusier, was completed in 1953? The Chapel of Notre Dame du Haut. Which paradox, questioning why we have not yet detected extraterrestrial life, if it is common in the universe, was proposed by physicist Enrico Fermi in 1953? Fermi's paradox. Which restaurant were the Seagram murals commissioned for in 1958? Four Seasons Restaurant, P.J. Clark's, or Delmonico's? The Four Seasons Restaurant. What is not true of the 1956 Melbourne Summer Olympics? First to be televised internationally, first to have beach volleyball, or first to be held in the Southern Hemisphere? First to have beach volleyball. Which 1959 play by Lorraine Hansberry became the first play on Broadway written by an African-American woman? A Season in the Sun, A Raisin in the Sun, or A Protest in the Sun? A Raisin in the Sun. Which country tested the first successful intercontinental ballistic missile in 1957? The US, the USSR, or the UK? The USSR. Which North African country did not gain independence from France in 1956? Senegal, Morocco, or Tunisia? Senegal. Which type of blue was introduced by a French artist in 1958? Cerulean, Yves Klein, or lapis lazuli? Yves Klein. How old was Pelé when he became the youngest player to score in a World Cup final in the 1958 tournament? 17, 18, or 19? Question 51. Which Frank Sinatra album won the first album of the year at the 1959 Grammy Awards? Come Fly With Me, No One Cares, or Come Dance With Me? Come Dance With Me. Which household appliance became popular in the US in 1959, symbolizing the post-war consumer boom? The vacuum cleaner, the blender, or the microwave? The blender. Where was the first artificial nuclear fusion reaction achieved in 1957 during the Zeta experiment? The UK, France, or West Germany? The UK. What was the first working laser developed in 1960 known as? Zirconia, ruby, or opal laser? Ruby laser. Which economic organization, established in 1959, was formed by 7 European countries as an alternative to the European Economic Community? The European Free Trade Association. Which 2 countries was the Kariba Dam between in 1958? Zambia, Zimbabwe, Mozambique? Mozambique. Which operation conducted by the United States in 1958 involved the detonation of nuclear weapons in space to study the effects on the Earth's magnetosphere? Argus, Angus, or August? Argus. Which author was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1957 for his works such as The Stranger and the Plague? Albert Camus, Franz Kafka, or Thomas Mann? Albert Camus. In what events did Wilma Rudolph become the first African-American woman to win an Olympic gold medal in 1956? Track and field, gymnastics, or swimming? Track and field. Question 60. Which airline launched the first transatlantic commercial jet service in 1958 using the de Havilland Comet? Imperial Airways, British Overseas Airways Corporation, or Delta Airlines? British Overseas Airways Corporation. What job did Imre Nagy have before becoming prime minister during the Hungarian Revolution in 1956? Teacher, engineer, or writer? Writer. Where was the Bandung Conference, the first large-scale meeting of Asian and African states, held in April 1956? Malaysia, Indonesia, or Thailand? Indonesia. Which spacecraft became the first human-made object to reach the moon when it crash-landed on the lunar surface on September 13, 1959? Luna 1, Luna 2, or Luna 3? Luna 2. Which abstract expressionist artist was not featured at the Tate Gallery in London in 1956? Jackson Pollock, Mark Rothko, or Andy Warhol? Andy Warhol. What discovery did Max Perutz in 1958 earn him a Nobel Prize in? Structure of hemoglobin, structure of lymph nodes, or structure of oxygenated blood? Structure of hemoglobin. In which 1958 novel was the world introduced to Holly Golightly? Breakfast at Tiffany's, Breakfast at Bloomingdale's, or Breakfast at Liberty's? Breakfast at Tiffany's. Where was the world's first underwater tunnel, the Severn Tunnel, for cars that opened in 1956? The UK, Turkey, or Australia, the first underwater tunnel for cars? The UK. Which brand introduced its first plastic bottle in 1958? Coca-Cola, Pepsi, or Dr. Pepper? Coca-Cola. Which Nikita Khrushchev's speech in 1956 denounced Joseph Stalin's crimes? The Stalin speech, secret speech, or the Soviet speech? The secret speech. Question 70. Which 1956 film comeback earned Ingrid Bergman an Academy Award? Under Capricorn, Journey to Italy, or Anastasia? Anastasia. Which novel by Christopher Isherwood, published in 1959, inspired the musical Cabaret? Goodbye to Paris, Goodbye to Berlin, or Goodbye to Vienna? Goodbye to Berlin. How many watchtowers were there on the Berlin Wall, built in 1961? 102, 202, or 302? 302. Which international organization granted independence to 17 African nations in 1960, leading to it being called the Year of Africa? NATO, the United Nations, or the Organization of African Unity? The United Nations. What were the mysterious astronomical objects discovered in 1963 that emitted more energy than entire galaxies? Spacers, radars, or quasars? Quasars. Which event, held in August 1963, featured Martin Luther King Jr. delivering his famous I Have a Dream speech? The March on Washington, for Jobs and Freedom, for Freedom, or for Unity and Freedom? The March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. What typing element featured on the Selectric typewriter was introduced in 1961? Tennis ball, ping pong ball, or golf ball? Golf ball. Which Summer Olympics were the first to be globally broadcast live via satellite? 1960 Rome, 1964 Tokyo, or 1968 Mexico City? 1964 Tokyo. Which Jean Tingley self-destructing sculpture was exhibited at the Museum of Modern Art in 1960? Homage to New York, homage to New York City, or homage to Manhattan? Homage to New York. Which U.S. president appointed Constance Baker Motley as the first female African-American federal judge in the 1960s? Dwight D. Eisenhower, John F. Kennedy, or Lyndon B. Johnson? John F. Kennedy. Question 80. Which NASA spacecraft launched in 1961 successfully flew by Venus and returned the first data on its atmosphere and surface? Mariner 1, Mariner 2, or Mariner 3? Mariner 2. Which operation, started by the United States in 1963, involves spraying herbicides like Agent Orange over Vietnam? Operation Land Hand, Ranch Hand, or Farm Hand? Operation Ranch Hand. Which film, released in 1963, became the most expensive film up until 1978? Ben-Hur, Cleopatra, or Mutiny on the Bounty? Cleopatra. Which Paris Metro line, inaugurated in 1960, became the world's first fully automated subway line? Line 6, Line 10, or Line 14? Line 14. Which country was formed in 1964 when Tanganyika and Zanzibar merged? Kenya, Uganda, or Tanzania? Tanzania. Where was the first computer-generated music created? In 1962. Apple Labs, Song Labs, or Bell Labs? Bell Labs. What is the Higgs boson particle predicted by Peter Higgs in 1964 also known as? Planet particle, birth particle, or God particle? God particle. Which medical milestone occurred in 1962 at Massachusetts General Hospital? the first successful retina transplant, the first successful spinal fusion, or the first successful reattachment of a severed limb? And the last one is the answer. Which 1967 James Bond film was Sean Connery's 5th consecutive appearance in the titular role? Thunderball, You Only Live Twice, or Diamonds Are Forever? You Only Live Twice. A 1963 assassination in which country increased international U.S. military involvement in that country? Vietnam, India, or Afghanistan? Vietnam. We are at question 90. Who broke Babe Ruth's single-season home run record by hitting 61 home runs in 1961? Mickey Mantle, Yogi Berra, or Roger Maris? Roger Maris. What cosmic phenomenon discovered by Arno Penzias and Robert Wilson in 1964 provided evidence of the Big Bang? Cosmic microwave background radiation. Which brand released their enduring handbag style, the Papillon, in 1966? Givenchy, Chanel, or Louis Vuitton? Louis Vuitton. Which U.S. law, signed in 1963, aimed to abolish wage disparity based on gender? The Equal Opportunity Act, the Equal Pay Act, or the Equal Wage Act? The Equal Pay Act of 1963. Which country detonated its first atomic bomb in 1960, becoming the 4th nuclear-armed nation? France, China, or Australia? France. Which Roald Dahl novel, published in 1964, introduced readers to an ordinary boy having otherworldly experiences? The Witches, the BFG, or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory? Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Which shoe brand was founded in 1964? Converse, Vans, or Nike? Nike. Which chemical element was identified in 1961 and is named after a prominent physicist? Lawrencium, Valium, or Oppenheimen? Lawrencium. Which island kingdom became sovereign in 1964 after centuries of colonial rule? The Republic of Ireland, Cyprus, or Malta? Malta. Which commercial geostationary communications satellite was launched in 1963, enabling continuous communications between North America and Europe? SYNCOM 1, 2, or 3? Syncom 2. Question 100. What was Starfish Prime on July 9th, 1962? The largest nuclear test conducted in outer space. And for our bonus question, which 1960s childhood toy on a string rhymes with ho ho? Let us know the answer in the comments. Thanks for playing this quiz. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. We will see you in our next one. Bye-bye.